6R, 650R. Got to ask a question the other day there, and it was a hard question to answer. Reasons being, the guy was talking about the sag, and he asked me how much sag would this bike have on a 250-pound guy. I don't know. And here's the thing. The thing of this, a person, unless they just absolutely have to, you shouldn't adjust the sag on this bike unless you just absolutely have to. And the reason why I say that is that all depends on where and how you're going to ride it. Okay? If you say, well, we'll just use this guy as an example, and there's a lot of things enters in on this guy, okay? He said he weighed 250 pounds. So theoretically, if it's bottom, or if it's sagging too much, and he wants to tighten, he wants to compress these springs, okay? But the bad thing about it is, when you compress the springs, your bike don't sag as much, and so the seat height is going to be, it's going to stay more high than going low. You'd have to use a shorting link. And see, that's what I'm saying. If the guy was 6'5" and weighed 240 pounds, he could make that rear suspension a little stiffer, and it probably wouldn't hurt a thing because he's 6'5". But if he's 5'10", okay, and he weighs 240 pounds, and he makes that rear stiffer, so it don't have as much sag, then he's going to have a hard time because it didn't drop seat height in on him. So it's kind of a 6'1" to have another. The only time, like I said, I would adjust the sag on these things. I did knock mine back about a quarter of a turn, and what that does, it's called the compression ratio of a spring. And don't get me wrong, no, I'm not try to give you a whole bunch of technical stuff, because I don't understand either. I did used to be a tool and die maker, so I understand a little bit of things about springs. Okay. The top part of your spring, when you first start compressing it, you can get that spring moved. We're just going to say, as an example, you can make that spring start to compress at 10 pounds. Okay. But for every thousandth of an inch or 10,000th of an inch, quarter of an inch, however you want to slice it, that you compress that, it takes more to compress it. So we say it takes 10 pounds to compress that thing 10,000th of an inch. To get 20,000th of an inch compression, you might have to have 30 pounds, because it increases. The more you compress it, the more it increases. So, and that's kind of the way it is on the sag, okay? And the only reason I would adjust the sag, and most times on the 650, there's not any reason for it, unless I was going to use it as a two-up machine. Okay, if my wife or girlfriend, whatever the case may be, wanted to ride with me all the time, okay, then you might make that just a little stiffer to offset her weight as well as yours. If you don't have a girlfriend or wife that rides with you, then the only reason I would change that would be make the ride just a little bit softer on the top end, so that I would have more seat sag, if that makes any sense. Because there again, we talked about the compression ratio of the spring. The more you compress it, the more it takes to compress it. So that means if you tighten that down, okay, that means instead of going the 10 pounds for 10,000th of an inch, and instead of, you've already got it at 30 pounds at 20 thousandths. If you follow what I'm saying. So the more you tighten it down, the more it's going to take to compress that spring, which gives you a stiffer ride. The only reason you'd want to, like I said, stiffen it is if you're a heavier rider. But then there again, you got to be careful, because it's not going to let your seat come down any at all. So the only other alternative you got is putting a shortening link. And this is what's kind of confusing. The shortening link, okay, is actually a longer length than standard. And if you want to make your bike set up higher, you actually get a shorter link than standard, and it raises the seat height. Longer makes it shorter, and shorter makes it longer. It's It's just the way the bike is configured underneath there, where your shock is, and you see your shock works on that pivot. So if the more you use up of that pivot, the higher your seat's going to be. That's why the shortening lengths are. This here was about an inch longer than standard, which automatically dropped that shock down an inch, which is the reason why the seat come down. So if that makes any sense to you. So anyway, as far as adjusting the sag on there, unless you are bottoming out, and then there again, depends on how you're riding it. If you're riding this as a dual sport, okay, ride it as a dual sport. Get out there and hit your back roads, your country roads, do some light duty off-road, okay, but don't try to do any motocross or any hard enduros or hare scrambles, because this bike wasn't made for it. It's a dual sport, okay? It was built to be a happy medium in between the two. So use it as a dual sport. So that's what I'm saying. The only time I would adjust the sag is if I was a heavier person and it bottomed out on me. And then there again, and I'm talking about just a normal ride. I'm not talking about motocrossing or, you know, nothing like this. I'm just talking about just a normal ride that you do on a dual sport, if that makes any sense. See, what they still got the XR600, which is a dirt bike, and it's built to be a dirt bike, okay? So, and I know everybody says, well, I want a dual sport because I can ride it on the street. Well, nothing is perfect. The only way you can have the perfect bike like that is you have to buy a strictly dirt bike and jump through all the hoops and kiss a whole bunch of butt and get the thing street legal. But then there again, once you get it all street legal, it's going to fall down on its face when you get up to 50, 60 mile an hour, because you're already too low geared. But anyway, so if that makes any sense, it's hard to find a happy medium. But the first thing you got to do is decide how you're going to ride this bike, where you're going to ride this bike, and if you're going to ride it alone or with somebody else. So these are all things that got to enter in. But like I said, as far as adjusting the sag on there, if a person was heavier and you need the extra suspension, yeah, you can tighten that shock down there, and it won't bottom out as quick. But like I said, then the only other alternative got is to get a shortening link and drop that seat height. Okay. By loosening them up, there again, it goes back to the spring compression rate, okay? When you loosen them up, you can use less weight to compress that spring because you don't have that much tension on it. Or you've automatically gained something. That's where, like I said, if you're trying to adjust the sag for the seat height, the seat's really not going to be any lower, but when you sit down there, it's going to drop more because of the compression spring rate ratio, whatever it is. And I don't know what that is because I'd have to sit down and figure it out. But anyway, I'm just trying to clarify some things on the sag. And like I said, on dual sport, unless you're a heavier rider or you're planning on doing a 2-up ride on the thing, I wouldn't mess with it. Okay, that's only as a last resort. Go with the shortening link. And like I said, if you think it's still too tall, you can drop the front forks and all that. But you know, it's like, make the bike your own. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's what you should do. You should make the bike your own, because if you're not happy, if you're not comfortable, it's going to be a shitty ride, okay? And like I said, now don't take anything I say as gospel, because I am full of crap. There is a guy out there, he's actually from Canada, and he's a younger guy. He goes by Fortnine, Fortnine, and he has a lot of good, useful, technical information. Okay, and so if you got any questions, this guy acts like he's pretty spot on. So, I mean, I've never questioned anything that he said, because every video I've watched and he's been pretty spot on as far as I'm concerned. So, but anyway, to adjust the sag, I wouldn't unless I just had to. That's one thing that, like I said, the old bikes, when they used to have the straight up down shocks, used to have 3 shock settings on there, okay? You had soft, medium, and hard. And hard, you had a little wrench, and you clicked that over 2 clicks, and on the hard, and that was for 2 people, or your extra luggage and all that crap. But when you was after by yourself, and you wanted to smooth out the ride a little bit, you turn it down on 1. So, and that's where all that came in. But when you went to the mono shock, you have to get in there and you have to adjust your compression on your shock spring, and it's a real pain in the ass. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't mess with it unless it was just something I really had to do. And then there again, you've got to figure, why do you want to do it? Yeah, what are you trying to get out of it? Are you trying to get a lower seat height? Are you trying to keep from bottoming out? Are you going to ride 2 people? Are you heavier than, I weigh about 180 pounds. So, and like I said, and the more you compress that, the stiffer ride you're going to get. Got to remember that. So if you're a bigger person, you'll want a stiffer ride. If you're a smaller person, it'll just beat you to death. So it's kind of 6 1, half dozen another. You got to know why you want to do that. Good rule of thumb is don't mess with it. But anyway, you know, it's something that you've got to figure out. And there are some good people out there that are a lot more technical savvy than I am, of course. And they could probably get you on the right street. So, but anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I got to ask that question. And there again, I don't think the guy told me how tall he was. Like I said, if he weighs 240 pounds and he's 5'10", making that sag stiffer is going to be more of a hindrance than it's going to be a help, unless he does a shortening link. See what I'm saying? So it's like, it's you got to know why you're going to do it. And then like I said, there again, depends on where you ride, how you ride, and what kind of terrain you're riding. If you do a lot of desert riding, I can see where you want your suspension a little stiffer, but then there again, you're talking about a whole different ball game than what a dual sport was actually designed for. That's just my opinion. But anyway, and sadly, around here in Illinois, we don't have any good wild open country. All we've got is just different riding parks. And so I don't do any off-road riding on that thing there. If I want to do an off-road riding, I take my old TTR, and that's my dirt bike. So that's why you got to have about 2 bikes right here. But anyway, I guess that's enough of that. I hope I answered the question and didn't confuse it even more. But first of all, like I said, you got to know why you want to do it, and go from there. Okay, treat the bike like a dual sport, ride like a dual sport, and you have years and years of fun and service. And if you're looking to turn into a dirt bike, just go buy the XR 600. Okay. Well, I guess that's enough of that.